you very much. And I agree about the importance of those DEA wire intercept centers. We toured the facility, and it was very, very impressive. Last year, as we know, we saw a significant increase in poppy cultivation to record levels, which is a huge setback to our efforts to cut off that link between extremist groups and the drug trade. The vast majority of poppy is cultivated in some of the most dangerous, least secure areas of Afghanistan, operated and controlled by the Taliban and other extremists. Which U.S. government agency is in charge of coordination efforts for counter-narcotics programs in Afghanistan? I'll let you ponder that one. Also, the drawdown has already caused our agencies to decrease their staffs and their presence in Afghanistan, and we still don't know what the post-2014 footprint will be. This uncertainty affects more than just our military presence, but it impacts our strategic goals that we're aiming to accomplish in Afghanistan, including counter-narcotics efforts. How heavily does the uncertainty about this post-2014 decision weigh over our plans for future counter-narcotics efforts? How effective can we be with a minimal to perhaps zero troop presence? And Mr. Capra, you testified that sustaining successful security transition to Afghan forces will rest in part on limiting insurgents' access to drug-related funding and the support that they get. And in response to this challenge, DEA reopened the Kabul country office. At its peak, DEA had 97 authorized positions in Afghanistan, plus a number of contract employees. Did DEA receive the proper number of staff that you requested from the embassy? And if not, why not? And we're now entrusting the Afghan counter-narcotics forces to do a job that is arguably tougher now than it was before, and they will have less U.S. support with which to do it. We've made remarkable progress in training their forces, that is true, but I'm not sure that they have the capability to handle this very serious threat to both Afghan and U.S. national security. SIGAR, in a 2009 audit, has criticized INL for Counter-Narcotics Justice Center. Secretary Brownfield, what are your thoughts about the audit, and what is the current capacity of the Afghan forces for counter-narcotics operations? Thank you.
I'll start, Madam Chairman, and pass the DEA staffing question, obviously, to the good Dr. Capra seated to my side. All of the questions are excellent. Let me try to knock them off, or at least the three that I believe most directly apply to me. First question, who is responsible for coordinating strategy and drug policy in Afghanistan? Madam Chairman, we have an interagency U.S. government strategy that was blessed through the White House managed interagency process in 2012 and produced in December of that year. Since that time, the three organizations represented at this table, DOD, DEA, and INL, have all done our own review and developed our own modifications and adjustments based upon the expectation that 2014 is a transition year. And we've attempted to answer the question for our individual agencies, where will we be going post-2014 in terms of our drug efforts? Who is responsible for coordinating in the field in Afghanistan? Probably, I'm the closest to the Stuckey in this regard. It is the United States ambassador, but he expects his INL director to pull together, at least in some sort of strategic and policy way, all of those players who are working the drug issue in Afghanistan. The 2014 and beyond footprint. You put your finger right on the issue, Madam Chairman. Everyone at this table would like to know with great precision How many people will we have available for this mission after 2014? And the truth of the matter is we still do not know. This falls into the category of those variables I was talking about in my statement. We do not know what is the nature of the security relationship, whether we will have a BSA and what it will say, who will win the election in April of this year, what will be the number of resources that are available to us out of the FY 2013 and the future the FY 2014 appropriations bill, and what the other international players will be doing. We are obligated, you pay us, to put together the best possible set of policies and programs that allow us to adjust to whatever those variables eventually deliver. Finally, thank you for the question on the Counternarcotics Justice Center. In a hearing across the way about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I did hear from the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction comments in terms of the CNJC. They surprised me because they were almost 180 degrees different from my own perspective. I believe the CNJC is one of the great success stories of counternarcotics in Afghanistan today. When I was there a week ago, I inaugurated a new detention facility at that Justice Center for one simple reason. They are investigating and prosecuting so many cases that they did not have enough detention space to hold the accused during the process of the trial. And we needed to build an annex. They are investigating well, prosecuting well. They have a conviction rate in the high 90s. It is widely regarded as one of the success stories of Afghanistan. And in fact, there are a number of other elements of the Justice Center, of the justice sector, that are hoping that they could mimic or do a similar operation to the CNJC. Dr. Capra, over to you.
And why I like having meetings with Ambassador Brownfield. Madam Chair, a couple of questions you raised. First and foremost, our footprint. Obviously, when we started, there was at 97. And what I'd like to do is talk about, first and foremost, we DEA, would not have the ability to operate there without the funding that we get from Department of State and DOD. We nearly this year, fiscal year 13, $30.5 million from Ambassador Brownfield, I'd like to call it. Another close to $15 million from DOD. One to support, we spend, DEA's direct appropriation, $17 million for 13 positions, 3 pilots, and 3 fast teams. But in order to operate, we would have needed a lot more personnel, which we did. Now, this year comes in, we know that the U.S. government drawdown is going to impact everybody. We got asked about, we're pulling out of forward operating bases just like the military did. What's our plan for the future? When we're looking at Afghanistan, and this is, again, never done in a vacuum, meeting with our interagency partners as well. So what we do, just like you're familiar with any other part of the world where DEA operates, whether it's South America, Europe, is we get the biggest bang out of our buck with our SIUs and our NIUs. It's a gold standard anywhere in the world. So with effective vetting and standing these teams up, training them with our people, and so in a combat theater, we were pushing out with them constantly. And so we knew that was going to be less and less likely. And so how could we operate, how could we operate in that region? We put a plan together with certain assumptions that have to be in place. One is funding. Are we able to have continued funding? The next certainly is security, the security of our men and women there as well. So all that goes into, and I don't want to rehash what Ambassador Brownfield, but it is, we're not sure what's going to happen, but we are moving towards a drawdown. And by the end of this year, we will probably have somewhere at about 47 people in country. That includes still rotating fast members there once a quarter. And really the crux of what we're doing there is building capacity and capability of the Afghan counter-narcotics police, the vetted teams, and having them to be able to stand on their own. And in some instances, or actually a lot of instances, they're doing that right now. In this past year, they've done over 2,400 operations, 2,400. They've arrested over 2,200 individuals. They've seized over 121 tons of narcotics and another 32,000 kilos of chemicals. And that's not including the typical weapons and hardware made, communications, hardware, IED making materials that are out there. And so when you ask, and the right thing is to ask sometimes, is what is up? We started with nothing when we got there. We started with nothing. And here we've developed SIUs, NIUs, TIUs, Judicial Wire Intercept Program, which you know is critical anywhere in the world. And then we have to look at it from a regional approach too. What will happen? So we're not sitting here waiting saying, okay, we're also looking at being able to partner with our regional partners in the region in Central Asia. So all a part of the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And then, Ms. Logan, if you have anything to add.
The only thing I would add is, most of the places where we do our counter-narcotics work are not U.S. declared war zones. And so this is about us transitioning as well to using some of the strategies and the approaches we've used elsewhere. It will be more difficult. Madam Chair, you're exactly right. I mean, it's a very hard problem. And we always see ebbs and flows. And so while I think all of us, don't dispute the sort of facts on the ground, I think how you interpret them, as my colleague said, we see a lot of new but really impressive capability. Is it enough? Will it answer the question, the issues that the country is going to face in the next 10 years? Probably not enough. It's not going to solve the whole problem. But we can still keep and grow that capability. And the country itself, I mean, we've seen a lot of evidence that the people of Afghanistan do not want to be a narco state. This is not something they're comfortable with. And so we have a lot of material to work with. But we will transition to something that is more similar to what we do around the globe as opposed to what we've been able to do in Afghanistan.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the committee members putting up with how long I went on that. Mr. Deutsch, you recognized.